What's up, nerds? It's Noah, and I'm really happy to introduce you to my wife, Naomi. She does a lot of the work when it comes to the Etsy store, and is honestly probably a better painter than I am. We got this small army of little warriors. They all have guns and backpacks. Do you know what they're called again? What are they called?
Tempestus.
A bunch of Tempestus?
Tempestus.
Tempest.
No, Tempestus.
Tempestus.
Stop now. You're just wasting time.
So, we have to paint them all, and we're on a schedule. We're going to just pick a few colors that we knew were going to be on every single mini because they're all part of the same army. They should all kind of have a similar color scheme. So we picked 2 colors. We don't want to just hop in with the brightest version of that color. What you really want to do is take that color and bring it down a notch. A good idea is to grab your cell phone. So let's just go ahead and Google red. And scroll through the colors until you find the one that you want. So let's say that we really like this one here. Once that color is on your screen, you're going to go to your brightness and go ahead and turn it down to about a 1/4 or a 1/5 of the brightness. This is the color that you want to start with. This is what we're slapping on the mini. And at that point, it's basically color by numbers.
We didn't have to be too careful. We were painting pretty fast.
Right.
Because it's just the base. You can clean things up later, and you'll be adding layers to it.
And I decided that I would take on all the reds, which are typically on their pants and their undershirts.
And I would do the armor, which is like a bluish, slatey gray color.
As soon as I finished the red on one, I would hand it over to her, and as soon as she would finish the grayish blue on another, she would hand it over to my side. That way, we were just always working on these minis trying to get these base colors down. After doing that, this is basically what it came out to be. This is just the first round of colors. And to be honest, we've seen plenty of minis that end up looking like this. I wouldn't feel comfortable, really sending this back to somebody that is paying us to paint them. Because it only took us about 20 minutes to get all of the gray and all of the red down, we knew that we could do more.
So I thought it'd be a good idea to take a mini and completely finish it, paint it up, do all the details and highlighting so that we have like a finished model that we could work with. And then as we're working through the other 12 of them, we can look back at this to remember, what color each of the parts are, how we want to highlight.
If you look at them side by side, you can tell that there are some very significant differences, but it doesn't take us a ton of time to get from one to the other. In this video, we're going to be showing you guys how to take your minis from just base coat to something that's really spectacular in a relatively short amount of time.
So I'm going to be doing the highlighting for the gray armor of this little Tempestus guy. I have on my palette basically a gradation. I started with that darkest base color here, which was made with black along with some ocean blue and a little bit of white. Then I gradually started adding more white just to make it a little brighter each time to simulate the armor being exposed to more and more light. So I already have that base color down. I'm going to go to the next level up, and it's okay if they mix together a little bit. You want it to be gradual so there's not stripes of highlighting on your mini. So I'm going to go where the light would naturally hit if there were a light source coming from above, and I'm going to just hit that armor with that next brightest color. And with this, at this point, since it's not that much brighter, I am going to be covering a lot of the armor with this. I'm still going to leave a zone where it would kind of be in the shadows, where I leave that darkest base color. Once I feel good about that, I'm going to move down to the next brightest. Get a little water. Switch that around, make sure it's smooth. I'm going to go back to those areas of light being hit and fill that in. This time I'm going to be covering a slightly smaller area. And I'll go to that even brighter color. Get a little water. Then even a smaller area. It's gonna be almost like a small circle of light in some areas. And I'm gonna get even a little more white, more water, blend that in, and it's gonna be pretty bright, but again, we're just trying to get a small, tiny area with that brightest color. I'll probably end up adding more highlights as we get further along and just trying to balance out all the lighting in the mini, but for now I'll call that good. And then Noah's gonna continue highlighting the red areas now.
It looks like Naomi's done a really good job for us. I think that she's probably covered the majority of what you need to do when it comes to bringing up the brightness. The main difference is going to be that she's working with gray and blue, and I'm working with red. Now, when you add white to gray or you add it to blue, what you get is light gray or light blue. But when you add white to red, you get pink. And we don't want this guy's minis to be pink. We want them to be gray and red. So how we kind of work around that issue is we try to keep as much red as possible, and instead of going up to a gradient, we try to have a pretty small acute point of pink and white. So what we'll do is we'll come in with red, and then maybe we'll mix in a little bit of orange to make it a little more vibrant, and then I'm just going to tap in a little bit of pink in this area, especially on the folds of the clothes. And I generally am going to stay away from anything that underwear could cover. Anywhere where the underwear can touch, and leave it dark. I think we're in a pretty good spot to start adding some of those really bright highlights. Yeah, I think so. So I'm looking at the gray up here. There's pretty heavy white in there, but there's a lot, it's very well saturated. So I'm gonna grab some of this white and pink, make some pink here. And it's going to be fairly abrupt. Unlike Naomi's, which was pretty gradual from the darks to the lights, we're just going to go on in. We're going to make it really bright on those highlights, and then we're going to do a little red glaze over it just to continue with the "this is red, not pink, it just happens to be brighter red" look. And when I'm doing this, I'm really just flicking my paintbrush, pulling it over, alright, So now you're starting to see some of the contrast and the pop there. I'm going to even add a little more white and hit an even smaller zone with barely any red. Pretty good, pretty good. But again, there's a little bit too much of that pink look that I don't really want. So what I'm gonna do is grab that red I'm gonna grab the red, grab a decent amount of water, just like on my brush. I'm gonna set it in, kind of make a little puddle of water, just a small one, maybe like 2 or 3 drops. I'll scoop in, here I'll show you. I'll scoop in some of the red so it's super watery. It's very loose. I don't want the pigment to separate from whatever the base is here. Once that happens, you've kind of lost any chance you're just putting water on it. So if it gets too watery, just grab some more, throw it in there. And you want it to kind of look like this. You want it to run and then start to move into the center after you lift your brush, just like that. So what I'm going to do is just move this very, very thin amount of this acrylic paint over the pink area, and it's going to leave the brightness just like that, but restore the color of red. So check me out. Way more red, way less pink, and you still get to keep that highlight there. It still looks brighter right here than it does down here. And that's what we're looking for. And that's pretty much what we're looking for. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in the other mini that we had done before, and you can see that we are closer to having them be the same. The guy on the left has a lot of the details marked out, but if you look at their main pieces of armor, they have that brightness look. It looks like there's a light coming in from above when really there's not. Like, there's no light that's creating that image. That's us. So in order for us to get from this spot to this spot, we need to go in and basically paint all the other values here. Paint anything that's the gun, the backpacks, everything else just needs paint on it. Now what we recommend you do is just pick 2 or 3 colors. That's it. We're gonna go with some blacks, some brown, and then our metallics. So copper, silver, things of that nature. And that's it. Once you hit them all, then we just have 1 or 2 more touches, add some more highlights to everything, and that's it. It's pretty simple. We're able to crank out a lot more really quickly because we're not overcomplicating anything. So I think that's where we're gonna call it today. Tomorrow we'll go through, grab some different details, and show you how to kind of finish up these guys. And then after that, maybe we'll move on to the bases. All right, see you guys.